Okay, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about nitrogen. Nitrogen, of course, is the element that creates green growth. It's the most important element for growth, and in deficiency we very quickly see yellow leaves, always in the new leaves on the plant, because nitrogen can be moved around the plant very easily and very readily. The issue that generates is we can never know what the tissue level of nitrogen is until we see deficiency. But by the time we see deficiency, we've already lost yield and growth. The plant moves it around very readily, and that makes it almost impossible to actually measure the tissue level without taking the entire plant, flash drying it or flash freezing it in the field and analysing the entire plant as soon as it gets to the laboratory. Even then, what do we do with that information? It's possible to detect changes in tissue nitrogen level during the growth stages of a plant. And typically when a plant goes through a rapid growth phase, when cereals, rape, whatever, when they go through stem extension, and you get in a short period of time a big increase in the green tissue, then the roots really can't keep up. And the roots are the main source of getting nitrogen into the plant. Obviously, we put most of our nitrogen fertiliser on the soil as ammonium nitrate or as urea, or in very sulphur deficient crops we may use ammonium sulphate. It's an inefficient way of getting nitrogen into the plant, simply because most soils will allow particularly nitrate nitrogen to leach, causing a problem in groundwater of pollution. This leads to all sorts of issues. The efficiency of soil applied nitrogen is low. Government figures say that only 60% of all the nitrogen fertiliser we apply to the soil ends up in the plant. About 10% of it may or may not end up feeding the bugs in the soil, depending on how biologically active your soils are. But at least 30% of everything we apply ends up in groundwater, which is why we are controlled as to when and how much we can apply nitrogen to crops. Nobody wants to see nitrogen deficiency, because by the time we see those symptoms, damage has already been done to final yield. It's part of the general growth requirement of the crop, obviously. Too much nitrogen, we end up with soft, floppy plants, very prone to disease and pest attack, and too little nitrogen and we just don't get growth. It's very simple. It's important to get that nitrogen balance right. The deficiency symptoms are dead simple: yellow leaves at the top of the plant, new leaves coming out turning yellow, or we indeed in many crops we get yellowing starting at the bottom of the plant as the nitrogen is moved from the older tissue to feed growth. Any form of nitrogen deficiency is bad.